Hi, I'm Mary Beth Eldridge, President of the Berkshire Art Association, the BAA. The BAA is pleased to present Distillations, featuring the work of artists Peg DOTCHIN, ILENE SPIEWAK, and TOBIN MCCAULEY. Each of these artists have distilled the phenomena of the present moment into unique and beautiful works of art. We're pleased to be able to offer this virtual presentation to widen the audience that is able to see the work and learn a bit about the artists. This virtual presentation and the show have been made possible through a generous grant from the Berkshire Taconic Community Foundation and their ART Fund for Art Organizations. We want to extend a special thank you to Dominic Sandrini, who lent his expertise to writing the grant. We hope you enjoy the presentation.
My name is Peg DOTCHIN, and I'm an artist, and I have maintained a studio here at the Liechtenstein for almost 30 years. I would like to thank the Berkshire Taconic and BAA for having me be a part of this grant. I am truly honored. Initially, I was doing figurative work, and that was solely all my work was in charcoal, and then I started with pastels, but was mainly figurative work. Some very evocative pieces. A certain thing happened in my life that made it difficult for me to go back to that. So that is when I needed to look for something that was comforting, and landscapes answered that for me, and that's when I started. And this has to be probably 16, 17 years ago. So since then, I work in oils, pastels, and in caustic. I have to say my art inspiration started when I was in 8th grade. I had a nun who was my art teacher, and that's when it all started. She sort of turned the switch to my creative thinking. Monet is a constant in my life. I still look at his work. Pierre Bernard, April Gornick, and I still go back and look at the Hudson River painters. I think their landscapes are beautiful, and even though my style differs, they still inspire me. The paintings for this show were inspired by a trip to Iceland, and still a growing concern and sort of a continuation of the Ocean and Rising Water show that I had a couple of years ago. That plus all the time we spent inside last year sort of made the difference for me in continuing this work. I'm not too sure, but I think I have become an environmentalist and concerned about global warming, so I hope I can take this project to a new level.
Hi, my name is ILENE SPIEWAK, and I'm a painter. I've been painting my whole life, painting and drawing and coloring. I just recently got my MFA at the Pennsylvania Academy of the Fine Arts. We were the first low-res class in their program. I also have a master's in art therapy. Before that, I was a practicing art teacher and art therapist. I always have valued my studio space and have always felt like it was a very intimate and sacred place to be. And during the pandemic, those qualities about walking in my backyard through all kinds of weather to my studio felt even more intimate to me. And it felt more important to go back there and do the work. When I thought about time and containment in my work, actually it wasn't initially a conscious thought that I was having, because it was more of a feeling. And then I realized over the course of the last year and a half that there began to be an unfolding of those two elements of time and containment, in that my social relationships and when I was out in public were really impacted by space that I was taking and other people were taking in the places that we were. So in my work, I became acutely aware that one of the things that my studio provided was a sense of safety and comfort. And I also then became aware of the walls, my studio walls, and the ceiling and the space that I was standing in. Each time that I went to my studio, that remained pretty consistent for quite a long time. And so those edges and those planes found their way into my work. Also, the objects that I painted became representations of myself. Portraiture has always been important to me, and I think that objects are also stand-ins for people. And so I began to look at the things in my studio in a different way and incorporate them in my work. It became also acutely important to me to edit down the things, the objects, the things in my environment, just like the people. So I think the name of our show is fitting in my work, particularly because of that important element. Everything got distilled down to what I felt was the most important thing in my life, including my palette. I didn't need to have all colors anymore. If I did, I could paint them out and paint them over. And I felt the same about the things that I placed on my canvas too. I realized what I had in my studio was myself, always. I wasn't going to have the opportunity to be around very many people. And I began to insert myself more in my work probably than I was conscious of in the past. I mean, there are all kinds of ways, I suppose, to interpret my work. So there it is.
I'm TOBIN MCCAULEY. I'm a Pittsfield artist based at the Liechtenstein Center. I've had a studio here for about 5 years. I work as a graphic designer and a painter in Pittsfield. And most recently, I've kind of branched out into doing murals within the city. And my art is all based in graphic design. It's all very abstract and colorful and fun. Right at the beginning of COVID, when everything shut down and we were just kind of all in our homes, the one thing that I had was the studio. They kept the building open. We could come here. And with my artwork, it just kind of felt like the one place where there weren't any rules that we had to follow and weren't any restrictions. So it kind of became more free-flowing, this kind of like scribbling lines, more fun, maybe possibly like more childlike, because I just wasn't thinking about anything or really worrying about anything that was going on during the time of COVID, and I was just kind of having fun. I wasn't using any rules from like my design background, so it was like all restrictions were kind of lifted once I got to my studio, which was wonderful. Our creative department was laid off from my job. My new goal was to just say yes to any project that came along within reason, but even if it seemed a little bit frightening. People kind of came up to me about teaching art online, doing these murals in the city, and it was all things that were new, but it was very motivating to just kind of say yes and then just do it and like hope it all worked out, and they really did. I developed a citywide art show in Pittsfield called the Drive, Walk, Bike, Buy Art Show. So that encompassed like 45 artists within Pittsfield and the Berkshires, but all the shows had to be on a Pittsfield lawn. So it was just kind of a way to kind of get everyone out there, meet your neighbors, say hi since we were all stuck inside. The biggest thing I've developed was work as a mural artist, which I had never done a mural before in my life. I've painted forever, but to do such a large-scale project was never something I had accomplished. And I was asked to do a few by the owner of the Lantern. I've probably done about 10 murals within this last year. Yeah, I've now somewhat become known as a mural artist around town, which absolutely never would have happened pre-COVID, and it is something wonderful that's come out of something very bad. The goal of all my artwork is just to bring some happiness and smiles to people. It's abstract art, it's meant to be non-representational and just fun, and it's super colorful. And so, I mean, everyone that comes in here feels slightly uplifted and happy, and that's my goal for all my art.
Thank you so much for joining us. We want to offer our thanks to the City of Pittsfield Office of Cultural Development, Jen Glockner, Director, and Siobhan Lemmy, Assistant, for all their help in putting this show together. And the show itself will run until November 28th.